Hello everyone, this is In-Game Arts with another box, another offline product game review. This is Nioh Collection for the PlayStation 5. To jump right into it, this physical copy here comes with 2 games on 2 separate discs. This is nice in case you're working with limited hard drive space or you're only interested in playing one of the 2 games. Now these games is Nioh Remaster as well as Nioh 2 Remaster. As I said, they are treated as 2 separate games because they're on 2 separate discs. Now the first Nioh game comes with the update version 1.0, so the vanilla version. It did have an update. This update size was 320 megabytes big and will take you to version 1.023.001 since the time of this video. Now the second game, Nioh 2 Remastered, is the base vanilla version as well. It is 1.0 on disc, and as well there was an update available. This update was 600 megabytes big and would take you to version 1.027.001 since the time of this video. As well as both games do come with all current release DLC, all on disc. As well as it probably most definitely comes with the updates from the past generation. Those updates are on the disc as well. But this does not come with absolutely everything. There are some maybe pre-order DLC outfits and stuff like that are missing. But some of the DLC outfits are on the disc. You just have to make sure you go to the shrines where you level up and go to the boon category. And you click that and it instantly gives you the DLC outfits and items. As well as that all expansions are on disc as well. Now, this is going to be a long-winded and stuff like that, so please bear with me because there is a lot to cover and these are big AAA games. And again, I play all my games completely offline with an unregistered account, so I got to recite all my experience and time and experience throughout the entire game. Now, I want to put a quick asterisk, and hopefully people can understand this, is that I had put about around 200 hours in this collection. About over 100 hours in the first one, and a little over 100 hours in the second one. And I fully beat the game, though I did not complete the DLCs. I did make sure that the DLCs are on the disc, like I clicked on it, I ran through the level and stuff like that, but I did not beat them or complete them. The reason behind this is not because I just was tired of playing the game, it's simply because the DLC is designed for New Game Plus. Because it's easy to forget that these DLCs came out later compared to when the game first came out, so there is expectation that you've played the base game and then you play New Game Plus, which increases your level or give you better gear so you can run through the DLC expansions. So to do it, I would have to run through these entire games already again just to complete the DLCs. But I did at least check to make sure that they are on disc. I picked them, I played them, I ran around through them, but there was no way for me to comfortably progress through them unless I played New Game Plus, and I gotta move on. I've already put 200 hours in this entire collection, and I'm ready to move on and play other games. So hopefully you can be understanding of that. If you don't like how I'm choosing not to do that, just let me know in the comments, and maybe in the future I will try to, one of these days, run through these games again to make sure to fully verify the DLC that it's all completely playable offline. Also, I want to include real quick that if you want to play the DLCs for the first one and the second one, you have to beat the campaigns first in the first and second one, and then the DLC will be unlocked in the roadmap. So you got to beat the campaign first before you can touch any of the expansions in the first and second one. Just quick heads up about that. But I do want to point out my experience, so please bear with me. Nioh, the first one, came on the options menu. For some reason the game was set to English UK, so make sure you go to the settings and make sure to set it to English US if you're in America. Make sure you go to the options and go to autofill, because for some reason they have this turned off immediately. What this does, if you turn it on, every time you go to the next level, it automatically refills all your bows and bullets and as well as your cannon. Why is this turned off right at the start? I don't know. There is some minor FPS drops at certain moments, like if I broke a bunch of boxes or something like that, it kind of knocked down my FPS. But that was really about it. I've already talked about the New Game Plus DLC content. There was a little bit of a sun bug where the sun in the game kind of did some weird animations and did some weird shadowing effects and stuff like that that was very awkward. I uploaded a video of one of the instances of it happening, and you can clearly tell that's not what the game was supposed to be doing. It's a bug. As well as a helpful advice, the game, it relies on an item called elixir for healing, and if you're not careful, you could quickly spend up all your elixir. Thankfully, there is these kamidamas where you find them and they increase your odds of finding more elixirs. I highly recommend as your first time playthrough to make sure you always have them focus on gathering elixir than anything else, because you could find yourself fighting a boss and next thing you know you're completely ran out of elixirs and there's no way to refill them up in the first one. So make sure they're always focused on gathering elixirs with your kamidamas. Hopefully I'm getting that name right. I never used the soul weapon in this game. I never really saw a reason to use one, but overall I still completed the game with my spear and my Kamidayachi chain and sickle metal ball thing. Overall, that was my entire experience. I never had any game-breaking bugs or issues or crashes or anything like that. The game worked perfectly beginning to end. I checked out the DLC. There is some bonus DLC, pre-order bonus, costumes, outfits, if you, like I said, go to the shrine and activate the Boon DLC stuff. So that's all about the first one. Hopefully you gathered all that up. Now we'll go ahead and talk about Nioh 2. Nioh 2, sadly, there was some massive stuttering in the game. Now, this wasn't throughout the entire experience of the game. It mostly had to do with, obviously, loading up the level. The game would, like, at certain segments in the level, it would start stuttering to try to load up the next section of that map. And for the most part, this was generally happen when there was no enemies around. But let's say you lure an enemy to get aggroed and get them to chase after you, then you run back and you come across that threshold where it needs to load up the next level, you could have stuttering while enemies maybe attacking you or chasing you. So bear that in mind. I did get hit a few times because of that stuttering, but I never got killed or died or anything like that. And I never had any stuttering happen during a boss fight. So just keep that in mind. I do believe people are going to find that the biggest issue with the second one. As well as the NPCs sometimes got stuck, like if you summon a partner to help you, or the story character will run around with you. Sometimes they got stuck on the environments and stuff, and they end up not being able to help you. Sometimes they instantly teleport beside you if you're in a boss fight or something like that. For the most part, though, they'll get stuck, so make sure you keep an eye on your NPC friends. As well as I personally found the second one easier than the first one. It seems like the enemies hit a lot harder in the first one, and the second one allows you to call it a Yuki shift, which is kind of like a counterattack, which the first one doesn't have that. So it does make battles a lot more easier in certain areas. As well as that in the learn skill menu in the second game, the frame rate drops to 30 frames per second only in the learn skill menu. And sometimes if you're in that menu long enough, if you back out of the game and get back into the gameplay, the game will be locked at 30 frames per second. There's no way to fix this or anything like that as you're playing it. It won't magically fix itself. The only way I was able to get it to stop is sometimes when I open up the menu and go back to the skill menu and then X out of it, it fixed the frame rate. So bear that in mind. They could get stuck at 30 frames per second if you open up the skill menu. As well as that this does affect 1 and 2. There is no sensitivity control for zooming with your bow or your gun or your cannon, because you got your normal aiming, then you can zoom like your focus up, your zooming and your aim, and the aiming on that thing is super fast. There's no sensitivity for that, so bear that in mind if you're trying to make a precision shot while you're aiming. It can be very frustrating to get a pinpoint shot and bounce it around with the controller because it's so fast in its sensitivity. Now, in the second one, I did have the game crash once near the end of the game, which is really good considering the fact that I put over 200 hours, 100 hours in the first one, and over 100 hours in the second one, and I only had one time crash, and that was only in the second one. Overall, phenomenal experience from beginning to end, as well as in case it gets asked, the first one is the uncensored version of the game. If you don't know, the Asia version of the game is censored on the PS4. Now, I don't know if the PS5 version of the Asia version is still censored, but if you're just concerned, the first one is uncensored. So you can have all the decapitation and limbs cut off and everything like that in the first game. Whew, okay, hopefully that was a lot for you to take in. I'm sorry that was really long-winded. It's just a lot of information, a lot of data I had to provide you in one short span. Overall, I had a phenomenal experience with this game. It's lame that the DLC expects New Game Plus. It's not like a From Software game where the DLC seems to be integrated in your first playthrough. And on Nioh, I like to call it Nioh. I'm not a big fan of Nioh. Nioh just sounds cooler, but in Nioh, there's definitely a kind of a Diablo-esque looter kind of style, but they expect you to constantly play, do the grind, get levels up, get better gear, get better skills, and then do the DLC stuff and everything like that. So just keep that in mind if this is going to be your first time playing it, that you might find the DLC extremely difficult on your first time through. You kind of just have to do New Game Plus. So that's just a future advice on that. And again, make sure you do the elixir thing. That will help you a lot in your first time through it if you're not used to Souls-like and you're constantly using elixirs to heal. In the end, both 1 and 2 are phenomenal Souls-like games, and they're very good Diablo-esque style. You get lots of loot, lots of gear, progressively getting better gear, the skill menus and stuff like that. It's really fun to get abilities, get skills, and all this other stuff, and just finding your play style that you find most comfortable. I was always the spear, and I'm hoping I get the name right, Minachi. It's kind of like a chain with a sickle and a metal ball attached to the end. That was basically my run through for first and second one. In the end, it is a phenomenal collection to get. And I know that some people maybe get upset that I did not play the DLC, but I did pick them, I did try them out, I did run through them and everything like that. But in the end, I have to move on. I'm already 200 hours into this game, and I have to do New Game Plus, then do the DLC stuff. We're talking about, I have to be on this for another month, just doing that. And I got other games I really need to sit down and play and everything like that. But at least I know 100% for sure that the DLC is there, and that the game can be fully beaten from beginning to end for the main campaign. So in the end, it's just what I have to do for the channel and just move on with my life and my sanity on this game. I still had fun. I don't want to make it sound like I'm hated the game or anything like that, but it's just a Souls-like game. If you're not into those kinds of games, this isn't going to change your opinion, but it's still challenging, it's still rewarding, it's still extremely fun. The animations and characters and stuff like that are all extremely good. Some might get a little annoyed that the second one has a lot of reuse animations and reuse assets and stuff like that, which is, it starts dulling on you, and maybe that's why I'm really burnt out, is that since the second one is so similar from the first one in terms of design and assets and everything like that, that it just feels like I just played 200 hours of the same game, which there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that I don't recommend it jumping from the first and immediately the second one. As well as helpful advice, again, if you're new to Nioh or to the game, you do not need to play this in order. So the second one is a prequel, so you could actually play the second one first compared to the first one. But I do recommend probably playing the first one more because of the gameplay experience, because there's going to be some designs about the second one that's slightly different from the first one, and once you've gotten used to the second one and some of the stuff you can do and you can't do it in the first one, it'll definitely feel frustrating at certain moments, as well as that there are certain character reveals and certain characters and stuff like that that if you've played the first one, you get a little bit more appreciation how they reveal them in the second one. So though you do not have to play the first one before you play the second one, I think in terms of design wise and comfortability, I do recommend probably playing the first one before you play the second one. So like always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'm sorry this video took so long for me to make and everything like that and get around to doing it. It's just a long game. It's a hard game. There's lots of content, which is nothing wrong with that. If you want hundreds and hundreds of hours of content, the Nioh collection is just right up your alley, because there's just tons and tons of content, tons of DLC and stuff like that, all on disc. The game worked perfectly fine, other than the second one with the slight stuttering, which didn't bug me too much, but I can see some people having a lot of issues with it. Overall, phenomenal package through and through. You couldn't get more perfect than this, other than maybe since it had a few little small updates as well as some minor DLC and cosmetical outfits missing. But in the grand scheme of things, you're not going to really notice it, and it's not going to be that big of a deal. So again, thank you all so much for watching and being patient with me, and I'll see you all in my next unboxing video. Bye-bye!